I want to show you guys something. See this tree right here? See how there's actually a pocket in behind there? Sometimes people don't realize the fish get back in there, in that kind of area. So what we're going to do is I'm going to cast up in there with a wacky rig. Now, if you're going to do this, it's definitely something you want to do with a weedless bait. Texas rig, wacky rig, something like that. What I use for a wacky rig is one of these weedless wacky hooks. But don't be afraid to cast up into stuff like that, and I'll show you why. If you guys can see, there's that log right there. There's a whole ecosystem back there. And a lot of the times, there will be bass hanging out back there because they think they're safe, they're protected. Sometimes there's some big ones back there. Perfect example right there, guys. Now, getting them up over these logs sometimes can be a little bit of a trick, but as you can see, sometimes casting in a spot that you don't think are fish is also where the fish are hiding from you, and it works really good to catch fish. Now, that was not scripted, guys. I just seriously saw that area, assumed there was a fish back there, and decided to turn the camera on and record that. That was not scripted. That was not a fish already on the hook. That was purely the first cast into that area, and I took a fish out. Let's see if we can get another one from the same spot. Turn you guys back around. Cast right back in there. Again, if you're doing something like that, you want to make sure you have a weedless setup, because the fish back there are definitely dug in. Had a bite there. Now, the other thing is there's also going to be bluegill and other stuff back there as well, but you kind of specifically target cast. Like, I'm not sure how well you guys can see. I can't really see the camera really well. But see that little isolated grass patch? That is a perfect example of something to cast up to. Just throw your hook and line right up over it. Give it a minute. Let it sink to the bottom. Pop it a couple times. See if you can convince a fish to want to take it back. This is one of those areas, guys, that a lot of people look at this and they refuse to fish it because they're afraid of getting their baits caught up. They're afraid of losing a 50-cent worm for some reason. And this is the kind of places that I capitalize on, because I can tell you right now, there's a lot of times where I will catch not only little guys. I know that fish I just caught was tiny, but this is the kind of area that sometimes you'll get those big bass just sleeping in there, hiding out. And if you do it right, you can pull out a monster in a place that no one expected there to be a fish. What's happening is those fish back there, they're eating frogs, they're eating stuff that falls in the water, and they're also fairly protected from human interaction. So a lot of times they're more apt to bite because they're not as skittish. They haven't been hooked. They're what I like to call virgin fish. They haven't seen a lot of baits. They haven't seen a lot of human interaction because they found a spot that was fairly safe, and they just hang out back there and they get a kind of buffet level of food. Yep, there's another one. Yep, there it is. That's a little bit better one. Pull him up over. Back her up. So I guess I kind of made my point, guys, right there. 2 fish out of an area that most people would look at and make the decision that they weren't going to fish it because they're afraid of losing their hook, afraid of losing their baits. If you're afraid of losing your baits, you're wasting your time, because I can tell you right now, some of the biggest bass I've caught have been in places that I absolutely should not have been casting. Would have lost my bait more often than not, and I've had to unhook and cut lines and do everything that comes with that. But at the same time, those may not have been big ones this time, but next time they could be monsters. So if you guys take anything away from this video, just remember that sometimes the really hard next level cast could be the one that hides that monster.